Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
It's the one and only queen of receipts, the dropping gems in these YouTube streets. The lawyer Royce, nowhere to go. Tune in for the infamous morning show, giving the news that you need to know. So don't you dare miss a wake-up call. Then in the evening, I got all for y'all. Get your dose of daily vitamins. You know the queen makes it make sense. So true.
All right, hello everyone, Grand Rising. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time Queen Goddess goes live, okay? I hope everyone enjoyed your strong end. So let's get into it. The lovely T said, finally caught her live. Lovely T, I don't know why you be missing the queen. Now, you know I go live every morning. Okay, Monday through Friday. Okay, so let's get into it. Everybody hit that like button, like, share, subscribe. It's the least you can do, okay? And also, Don't forget to double check to make sure you're still subscribed to the Queen's channel, especially if you have not been receiving your notifications. All right, now for some of you whose emails I have, I send you the link via email in case you missed it. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. Who do we have here? Okay, most hated bronze flat power God, 504 Nola, Pretty Wings, All Hell Nah is in the house, Desmond is doing it. All right, let's get into it. The lovely T, Cecilia is here, Nessie X, Miss Sheila. All right, everybody hit that like button. I see you, Vince. I am from the UK. Terry is here, DJ Big Six. All right, let's get into it. So more information on Diddy and Jay-Z. Hey, Hot Coco. Now, the interesting thing is, after this case against Jay-Z and Diddy was dismissed with prejudice, well, there's still a whole lot of more filings that keep coming out about this case. So just a couple of days ago, more filings came out. The two investigators, Charlotte Henderson and Ian Pillinger, they gave new declarations. Then you had Alex Spiro gave a declaration. Okay, Jay-Z came out and responded to Tony Buzbee's attorney. It is all going down, y'all. Let's get into it. All right, hey, Buckhorse DC, everybody hit that like button. Now, I have all the documentation, honey, and it's all nefarious. Please pay attention. But before we get into it, let's just go back and remember how they said that little Miss Jane Doe has mental health issues. Now, we don't want to prejudice her, or we don't want to prejudge her based off the fact that she has mental health issues, allegedly, nor do we want to discount things that she has said because of that. But what we do want to do is use critical thinking skills to assess that someone who, in fact, has a host of mental health issues and along with having auditory hallucinations, who has told different stories on several occasions and accused people of doing things allegedly more than once, that we just need to be very speculative, or we need to be very critical of what we're believing from this person. Okay, that's what we need to do. We need to be very critical. We can't just believe everything this person says because, I'm sorry, but her credibility has been shot. And it isn't just because she has mental health issues. It is because if someone is hearing auditory hallucinations that nobody else is hearing, what are these voices that they're hearing in their head telling them? Okay. Is it telling them to do nefarious things, to make up lies, to tell stories, to fabricate things? I don't know. But at the end of the day, by the fact that she's given so many inconsistencies, we'll be safe to assume that we can't just take her at her word. We have to have more than just her word. There needs to be some sort of viable proof and evidence. And thus far, there is none. Okay, and so for those of you who missed it, when I talked about some of her mental health issues, let's go back over it, because the investigators who spoke with her actually got information from her doctor. Buzbee blasted the recording today in a statement sent to Rolling Stone, saying her position is very clear and has never changed. The tape is a pieced together fabrication. The investigators tormented and harassed and tricked that poor woman and took what she said out of context and secretly recorded her. She stands by her claims that Jay-Z was there at the party and that he assaulted her. She has never wavered on that point, not once. That's what Tony Buzbee argued upon finding out that the investigators had recordings of little Miss Jane Doe. Now, this is just a summary of what we've already discussed. Now, the high-powered Texas lawyer shared with ABC News his own recorded conversation with Jane Doe. They say that they have you on tape denying that Jay-Z assaulted you. Is that true? This is what he asked her in the recording. And I played all of this for you. Okay, so we really don't have to go through this whole thing because I actually played all of this for you and you heard it for yourselves. Now, she told Buzbee one thing, but clearly told those private investigators another. Okay, and another thing is, let's talk about the mental health issues. So in court filings, a different private investigator associated with Carter claimed that the woman has a legally documented history of mental health issues. Okay, it has been learned that the woman's like, well, they say Rolling Stone knows who she is. Says Rolling Stone has learned the woman's identity. However, they're not going to expose her by saying her name, but they do know who she is supposedly. And they say they confirmed several of the publicly available court filings referenced by the investigator. So Rolling Stone is co-signing what the investigators are saying about her mental health issues. Okay, they're basically saying they found the information themselves. They know exactly who this person is. Okay, even though Rolling Stone is not naming the woman. Now, in one case in family court, a doctor testified, and this is on the record. This is how they know the information. The doctor didn't actually tell them the information. My mistake. The doctor is on the record because they testified in a 2015 deposition, okay, that Miss Jane Doe, little Miss Jane Doe, told him years prior that she had a history of auditory hallucinations. He says, she told me that she has heard voices in the past. This is what the doctor testified to. Voices that other people don't hear. Now, in a separate motion filed by Doe in February of 2023 and obtained by Rolling Stone, she and her lawyer at the time asked a judge to transfer her to a mental health court for a pending matter. Okay, do you all hear this? She asked to be transferred to a mental health court for a pending matter. Her lawyer described her as having a large volume of medical/mental health disorders. Doe was under the supervision of the mental health court as recently as August the 19th of 2024, according to documents. And then she filed that lawsuit on Jay-Z in October. Okay, so just a couple of months, a little bit over 2 months prior to, okay, right around 90 days, she was in a whole mental health court, okay, in a mental care facility dealing with mental health issues before she came out and said these things about Jay-Z. Now, asked about the woman's mental health status, Buzbee said the question was improper. Buzbee got mad. He didn't want to answer that. And why did he not want to answer? Did Buzbee know that she had mental health issues? Did Buzbee have the information himself from the previous court deposition from 2015, where a doctor said these things about her that were on the record? Did Buzbee have this information? I don't believe he did. Had he had this information, he should have spoken on it. He didn't properly vet her. Okay, and he makes all these excuses. And then when asked about the woman's mental health status, Buzbee said that the question was improper and then responded saying, I'm not her psychologist. I think it's inappropriate to attack her on alleged past mental health issues in light of her assertions. That's the ultimate low. Well, it likely would be the ultimate low, but they weren't attacking her about her mental health issues. They were inquiring about her mental health issues, just as we're doing, because we should all have questions. Does her having these auditory hallucinations and other mental health issues, along with a history of violence compounded by alleged use of illegal substances, have anything to do with her credibility? Does it give us reason to think that maybe she's not in her right frame of mind at all times? Okay, and that she may have just made up some of these things. So anyway, and let's not forget that the two people from Good Charlotte, Benji Madden, okay, from Good Charlotte, and then also the other person she mentioned, Fred Durst, say that they were nowhere in town or around when she claims that this incident occurred. Okay, now let's get into the documents. The first one we're going to go to is where Alex Spiro pretty much exposes Buzbee. Okay, he pretty much tells the real reason why Buzbee wanted that lawsuit dismissed so desperately, in fact, that it has been alleged in court filings that Buzbee supposedly told Jane Doe that she needed to dismiss that lawsuit because her life was in danger, because Jay-Z was threatening to murk her. Yeah, that's in the filings, remember? Okay, so keep that in mind. But in these filings is what Alex Spiro basically says is the real reason. Declaration of Alex Spiro. Now, this was filed just about a couple of days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. I'm going to share my screen. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Hey, G from the land, Sweet D is in the house. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I may not read the entire thing, because we have a couple of other documents that I want to go over also. Okay, here we go. Now, I, Alex Spiro, declare as follows. I am a partner at the law firm of Quinn Emanuel Urquhart and Sullivan LLP and counsel for plaintiff Sean Carter. I make this declaration in support of plaintiff's reply to his ex parte application in connection with defendant's special motion to strike. Unless otherwise noted, I have personal knowledge of the facts stated herein, and if called upon to testify, I could and would competently testify thereto. On or about November the 5th of 2024, I received a copy of the extortionate demand defendant Anthony Buzbee, Mr. Buzbee, had made to Mr. Carter through a letter falsely accusing him of the sexual assault of a minor, Jane Doe. When Mr. Buzbee sent this extortionate demand to Mr. Carter, I became aware that it was coupled with Mr. Buzbee's frequent media appearances regarding the alleged participants and Sean Combs' criminal enterprise, Mr. Buzbee's public threats to unveil famous names, and Mr. Buzbee's threat to bring criminal charges against these alleged famous participants. Mr. Carter never paid Mr. Buzbee or offered him a penny in response to his extortionate demand or the Jane Doe lawsuit. Now, as a result, on December the 8th of 2024, Mr. Buzbee followed through with his threat and named Mr. Carter publicly in the case of Jane Doe versus Sean Combs et al. Now, on January the 8th of 2024, after the 21st day safe harbor period ended, I filed a motion for sanctions against Mr. Buzbee, seeking to dismiss the lawsuit pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 11. The Rule 11 motion. This was the first time I had ever filed a Rule 11 motion against another attorney in my career. So he had never had to even do this before until Buzbee came along. Please pay attention. The Rule 11 motion raised two issues. The first, Mr. Buzbee violated Rule 11B by either filing a knowingly false complaint or failing to conduct a reasonable inquiry into the facts. And two, Mr. Buzbee had failed to obtain admission pro hoc vice to practice in the Southern District of New York, despite having signed numerous pleadings and other filings evading the court's jurisdiction and authority. So, you know, and this all speaks, in my opinion, to Buzbee's character. Because at the end of the day, hold on, beloveds, I lost what I was sharing. Let me go back to it. At the end of the day, this totally speaks to Buzbee's character, as I was saying. Because like I told you, I think that he purposely never filed anything to practice there because, for one, he didn't intend on going to court. I think he thought that by sending them the demand letters that the people would be afraid, specifically Jay-Z as well as others, and just go ahead and give him what he was asking for. And that was some sort of settlement, even though he didn't necessarily mention money in the process. Okay. So with that all being said, on January 28th of 2025, the United States District Judge presiding over the lawsuit, Judge Annalisa Torres, in response to the issues raised in our Rule 11 motion, ordered Mr. Buzbee to file proof of admission to practice in the Southern District of New York by February the 14th of 2025. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Buzbee's attorney, Mark Kasowitz, reached out to me to discuss dismissing the lawsuit. Now, please pay attention to this, because this attorney they're talking about, Mark Kasowitz, this is Tony Buzbee's lawyer. Now, listen to what he and Spiro discussed. So they reached out to me. He reached out to me to discuss dismissing the lawsuit. I made clear at all times to Mr. Kasowitz that Mr. Carter would never settle the lawsuit or pay any money to resolve it, given it was a heinous false accusation. Mr. Kasowitz also requested that we dismiss this case, which Mr. Carter brought against Mr. Buzbee. I said no. Now, on February the 4th of 2025, Mr. Kasowitz told me that Mr. Buzbee would dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice by February the 14th, 2025, the same date by which Judge Torres had ordered Mr. Buzbee to file a proof of admission. Now, remember, we talked about that because that was interesting that Buzbee decided to dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice right at the deadline for him to file that pro hoc vice. Okay, which further makes me feel, as I keep reiterating, that he never wanted to go to court, never intended to, and clearly was likely not even prepared. Now, in light of Mr. Kasowitz's statement that Mr. Buzbee was going to voluntarily dismiss the lawsuit, we achieved the same result we sought through our Rule 11 motion. I told Mr. Kasowitz that we would hold in abeyance further pursuit of our motion. Abeyance means basically holding it still, like stagnant, like in suspension. Okay? In pursuit of our motion, without prejudice, pending Mr. Buzbee's dismissal of the lawsuit. Now, given that we had at that point achieved the purpose of bringing the Rule 11 motion, the motion was about to become moot. And given that the repercussions of Mr. Buzbee's failure to seek admission in the Southern District of New York was still an active issue for him in the many other lawsuits he had filed there, our withdrawal of the Rule 11 motion without prejudice was an insignificant event. Mr. Kasowitz's characterization of our withdrawal as being done in furtherance of a negotiated dismissal of the lawsuit is not correct. So basically saying that Tony Buzbee's attorney, Mr. Kasowitz, tried to put it out there or tried to make it appear as though they dismissed the lawsuit because they had come to some sort of negotiation, that there was some type of negotiation going on, a negotiated dismissal. But in fact, Alex Spiro says that is absolutely not true. It was my understanding that with the Rule 11 motion pending, while Mr. Buzbee dismissed the lawsuit, that would bring further attention to his ethical issues. Now, here is where I want you all to pay attention, because this is where Alex Spiro exposes the real reason why Anthony Buzbee, Anthony G. Buzbee, aka Tony Buzbee, why he allegedly pressured Jane Doe to dismiss that lawsuit with prejudice, and also why he allegedly told her, put the fear of God in her by telling her that Jay-Z was was threatening to kill her. Now, here's what it says. It was my understanding that with the Rule 11 motion pending, while Mr. Buzbee dismissed the lawsuit, that would bring further attention to his ethical issues. On February the 14th, 2025, Mr. Buzbee dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice. A copy of that was filed with the court as part of our opposition to this motion through the February 18th of 2025 request for judicial notice. Now, here's what he said. Pay attention. Buzbee got the lawsuit dismissed because he did not want to bring further attention to his other ethical issues. Okay, this is what Alex Spiro said, saying that this is not the first time Buzbee has done something like this, allegedly. Allegedly, this is not the first time he's filed a lawsuit that really was extortionate, by the way he put out the demand letter, basically didn't vet other clients, and this has happened before. This is what he said, that he's acted, or at the very least, that he's acted in some other unethical ways in different cases. This is what he said, and that Buzbee didn't want that information to come out. So Buzbee said, let's go ahead and dismiss the lawsuit, because if Buzbee had been sanctioned, if all of these things had happened and they kept with the lawsuit and it was found to be frivolous or whatever, and Buzbee, made all these missteps, they might start digging into other lawsuits that Buzbee did and say, wait a minute, he's been acting unethical. Okay, so his license to practice law could have been hanging in the balance. So Spiro is basically saying this is why he wanted that lawsuit dismissed. So that would explain further why he told Jane Doe, tried to scare her into, dismissing it by telling her Jay-Z's threatening to take her life. Okay, so the swift dismissal with prejudice of the lawsuit just 2 months after naming Mr. Carter was a resounding victory for Mr. Carter and a clear indication the allegations in the lawsuit were false in the first instance and that the extortionate plot by Mr. Buzbee had failed. I do think it was an extortionate plot. Further, why he didn't sign up for a pro hoc vici to practice in the Southern District of New York. Mr. Kasowitz requested, now this again is Tony Buzbee's attorney, Mr. Kasowitz requested that we cease any investigation into Mr. Buzbee or his law firm, a topic about which Mr. Buzbee was obviously concerned. So Tony Buzbee was allegedly scared as hell that they were going to keep investigating him and his law firm, and then the truth would come out that in fact he had filed a myriad of frivolous lawsuits and probably sent extortionate demand letters to many people to boot. Some of those people probably afraid and went ahead and just paid, or didn't want to go through the hassle, or didn't want to be embarrassed publicly or whatever, or have their name and reputation sullied. So they went ahead and likely paid. Okay. This is all so crazy, but let's continue. So Mr. Caswitz requested that they cease any investigation into Mr. Buzbee or his firm, a topic about which Mr. Buzbee was obviously concerned. Mr. Caswitz conceded there was not an admission that either my firm or Mr. Carter had engaged in investigations, and wrote in his email, and this is what the email says: neither you nor your client is admitting that you have done or known about it. It is my understanding and belief that this request was motivated by Mr. Buzbee's concern that investigations would reveal that the way he handled other cases was consistent with how he handled the case against Mr. Carter, and that he had a pattern and practice of engaging in extortion, defamation, and other illegal conduct. Now, this is basically what was sent to Alex Spiro via email. Okay? Mr. Caswitz conceded there was not an admission that either firm or Mr. Carter had engaged in investigations, and wrote in his email, neither you nor your client is admitting that you have done or known about it. So they didn't know anything about it. There was no plot. They didn't negotiate. There was no side deals. It is my understanding and belief that this request was motivated. This is Buzbee's own attorney telling this. It is my belief that this request was motivated by Mr. Buzbee's concern that investigations would reveal the way he handled other cases was consistent with how he handled the case against Mr. Carter, and that he had a pattern and practice of engaging in extortion, defamation, and other illegal conduct. Mr. Caswitz's request regarding ceasing investigations into Mr. Buzbee and his law firm in no way implicated investigating Miss Doe herself. Rather, this was a request concerning other investigations into Mr. Buzbee's practice. Mr. Caswitz's description that there was an explicit agreement that no contract be made with Miss Doe is not true. He never mentioned that to me. That's what he says he never mentioned that to me. Now, there was nothing improper with those around Mr. Carter seeking to speak with Miss Doe regarding what happened. I have listened to the recording and reviewed the transcript of Miss Doe's conversation with Mr. Butler and Miss Henderson. It is a 15-minute casual conversation, and in my opinion, it's a modest step to take when someone very publicly and falsely accuses another of raping a minor. Christopher says, you are off here. Even if true, Jay-Z's investigators have messed this all up. A lawyer going after another leads, I don't know what TOB stands for. But at the end of the day, beloved, I'm not off of anything, honey. I'm telling you what the documents say. So how am I off? I'm telling you what it says in the legal documentation. Okay? Now, you can agree or disagree. Doesn't matter to me. But with that all being said, let's continue. Now, Noah says slander, defamation on behalf of Jay-Z. Buzbee didn't keep it business-like, made it personal while destroying his reputation. Well, that's what I have to agree with you on that, Noah. I have to agree with you that at the end of the day, Buzbee didn't do his due diligence. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. Jay Black said, you still rocking with Jay-Z after the proof came out that Jay-Z was lying. I'm sorry. Are you, Jay Black, is this your first time on my channel? It has to be, because I have never rocked with Jay-Z. You sound stupid, okay? If you've watched this channel before, then you should know that I don't rock with Jay-Z. I give 0 F's about Jay-Z. I'm going by the facts and the evidence that have been presented and the legal filings, along with my own opinion. And in my opinion, Jay-Z has probably done some things. I've said this 1,000 times. Okay. Now, whether or not he did something to little Miss Jane Doe, I don't know. Her story has a lot of holes in it, and she has been proven to have lied as well. Okay. So if she has been proven to have lied and you claim Jay-Z has been proven to have lied, how do you decide which of the liars is really lying the most? Okay. How do you decide that? Okay. We don't know who is really telling the truth. We don't know if Little Miss Jane Doe really got grapes. We don't know if Jay-Z really did it or he really didn't. But at the end of the day, what I know is that there's been some lies told, and somebody who hears auditory hallucinations, at the end of the day, I can't trust everything they say. We also know that other people that she named didn't corroborate her story and said they were not even in the state. We also know their own father has no knowledge, says he had no knowledge of what happened and didn't pick her up and didn't remember it. Okay, that's what we do know, beloved. So at the end of the day, it's not about me being for Jay-Z. See, some of y'all can't separate your emotions from the story. That's what you can't do. You see, you act as though if somebody is saying something that you disagree with, or they're saying something against one person that you choose to prefer, then that means they're for the other person. I'm unbiased, okay? At the end of the day, I don't give a damn about Jay-Z, okay, Tony Buzbee, Little Miss Jane Doe, Alex Spiro. I don't know these people in real life. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just giving an objective perspective and telling you what I think about the documents that I'm reading. At the end of the day, I absolutely think Little Miss Jane Doe is a liar who lies. I don't think she's any different than Adria English. Now, you can keep sitting here and believe her if you want to. But what I find interesting is that Little Miss Jane Doe is given so much benefit of the doubt, even though we've heard a myriad of her lies. We've heard the audio of her saying one thing to investigators and another to Tony Buzbee. We've heard her contradicting herself. We've literally heard it. We heard the inconsistencies in the interview. We heard what other people who have been brought into the situation, what they have said. Interesting thing is, many of you people still want to believe this lady, and that's all fine. But I find it interesting y'all didn't have that same smoke for Adria English and Lumisha Fuller. You were quick to call them out for their lies. Okay, what's the difference with Little Miss Jane Doe other than her skin tone? Okay, so please miss me with it. I'm calling out liars. I don't care who you are. And if I don't believe your story and it has things that I need to question, that's what I'm going to do. It doesn't mean that I'm for Jay-Z. I don't give a damn about Jay-Z. And if you've been watching the Queen long enough, like I said, you'd know that. But let's continue. So goes on to say, based on my long-standing relationship with Mr. Carter, it is my belief that the false accusation of raping a minor damaged Mr. Carter and that Mr. Buzbee's actions taken against Mr. Carter damaged him. Mr. Carter did not ask for any of this, and it is only Mr. Buzbee that set these events in motion through his extortionate scheme. Now, after my colleagues appeared on behalf of Mr. Carter in this court on February the 25th of 2025 and raised filing the instant ex parte application on February the 28th, Mr. Kasowitz indicated that if Mr. Carter moved forward, Mr. Buzbee would publicly state that Miss Doe, now I want you to pay attention to this, listen to this, because this definitely sounds like extortion or blackmail. After my colleagues appeared on behalf of Mr. Carter in this court, February the 25th of 2025, and raised filing the instant ex parte application on February the 28th, Mr. Kasowitz indicated that if Mr. Carter moved forward, Mr. Buzbee would publicly state that Miss Jane Doe or Miss Doe was in fear for her life. That's what Tony Buzbee said. Keep moving forward. And I'm going to tell everybody that she's in fear for her life. That sounds like a threat to me. Because if she was in fear for her life, you could have just said that. You could have just stated it for the record. You could have just put it out there. Why would you say that if they do this, then you're going to say this? Okay, please pay attention. Clearly unethical at the very least. Mr. Kasowitz did not say that Mr. Carter or anyone acting on his behalf had threatened Miss Doe's life. And it has never been alleged that Mr. Carter did so. He said only what Mr. Buzbee would publicly claim if Mr. Carter proceeded. And here's the thing. Let me say this. And let me say this. For the young man who said that I was rocking with Jay-Z, Jay Black. Jay-Z's case has been dismissed. Okay? The case is over. It's literally dismissed. The case against him filed by Little Miss Jane Doe, that case is over and done with anyway. So what are you even talking about? I'm for Jay-Z. This is a declaration from his attorney, Alex Spiro. Okay? So I don't even know why you're going there because it makes no sense. But let me continue. So anyway, Mr. Kasowitz did not say that Mr. Carter or anyone acting on his behalf had threatened Miss Doe. or had threatened Ms. Doe's life, and it has never been alleged that Mr. Carter did so. He said only what Mr. Buzbee would publicly claim if Mr. Carter proceeded. There is no truth to the allegation that Mr. Carter threatened Ms. Doe or her life. On March the 13th of 2025, I checked the docket in the New York lawsuit and the filings that my firm received to see whether the November 18th, 2024 or December 8th, 2024 affidavit signed by Jane Doe and included as part of Mr. Buzbee's supplemental declaration in opposition to the ex parte application were filed in that lawsuit. Neither affidavit was ever filed. They didn't even file the affidavits. Attached as Exhibit A is a true and correct copy of the docket printout in the case from the ECF PACER file in the matter. All right. So he says, this is what Alex Spiro said, on March the 13th, he checked the docket in the New York lawsuit and the filings that my firm received to see whether either of those November 18th and December 8th affidavits signed by Jane Doe and included as part of Mr. Buzbee's supplemental declaration in opposition to the ex parte application were filed in that lawsuit. Neither was ever even filed. So they didn't even put her declarations in the lawsuit? Well, why not? Why not? Okay? Because there was lies. That's why. Because there were lies. And he got receipts. He got receipts. I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on this 14th day of March 2025 in New York, Alex Spiro. And let me tell you something. When a lawyer declares under penalty of perjury, if they get caught lying, if they're found to have perjured themselves, you don't think there'll be consequences? Okay? You don't think there'll be consequences? Of course there will. Of course there will. You can lose your license to practice law. Roxy said people are mad that the Queen is going down the loony bin conspiracy road. Yeah, they are mad. At the end of the day, I'm just reading the documents, okay? These are the receipts at the end of the day. I think that what Alex Spiro said about Tony Buzbee is absolutely factual. That's just how I see it. Now, with that all being said, let's go to the next paperwork. New filing responding to Buzbee's lawyer. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let's get into it. This is the next set of documents. As you can see, Sean Carter plaintiff versus the Buzbee law firm and defendants. Now, defendant's opposition is misfocused on matters that will not become ripe until trial. The question of the court on a special motion to strike is not who will ultimately prevail. This is not a bench trial where the court weighs evidence and determines credibility. To the contrary, the court must accept the truth of the plaintiff's evidence. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now, the only question for the court is whether Mr. Carter's claims have minimal merit, whether a reasonable fact finder drawing all inferences from the evidence in Mr. Carter's favor could find that he has established the prima facie elements of his claims. Defendants' efforts to dispute those facts, which consume roughly 80% of their opposition and declarations, are thus irrelevant to their pending motion. Similarly, the only questions posed by this application are whether the court should, one, allow Mr. Carter to supplement the record with the evidence he has offered. including statements by Jane Doe, Mr. Buzbee, and his colleague David Fortney about her claims and Mr. Buzbee's incitement to get Ms. Doe to claim that Mr. Carter was involved, and what defendants would have learned about her from a cursory investigation. Or 2, allow Mr. Carter to depose Ms. Doe and Mr. Buzbee, including to refute matters that defendants put at issue through their assertion of the defense of the litigation privilege. Defendants are thus barking up the wrong tree in attempting to dispute Mr. Carter's proffered evidence, especially with their glaringly incomplete summaries of the conversations they had with Ms. Doe, or how they supposedly vetted her claims, or whether she told them to serve the demand letters or sue Mr. Carter. It does not matter what their evidence might show if offered at trial. Nonetheless, between Ms. Doe's statements to the investigators, her 2 declarations filed after the hearing, and the declaration from 3 of her now former lawyers about their conversations with her, the court can safely conclude that any privilege over those communications has been waived and cannot impede discovery into them. I want you all to pay attention. They said Miss Jane Doe had 3 other attorneys. Now, defendants have burdened the record with more than 100 pages of this material. They hope to either distract from what is genuinely at issue or justify their pathetic non-investigation of their client's claims. The reckless disregard of obvious facts that raised red flags about her mind-boggling assertion that Sean Combs raped her when she was only 13 while a well-known woman watched, and defendants' ensuing extortionate and defamatory spree against Mr. Carter. It matters not. And as explained below, the investigator's evidence is admissible and compels the denial of the defendant's second special motion to strike. Now, defendants asked the court to exclude Mr. Carter's proffered evidence based on their view that it lacks probative value because their version of events is undisputable. But given the evidence before the court, by definition, the facts are not only disputable, they are disputed. Moreover, defendant's argument has no place in a special motion to strike. At this stage, the court does not weigh evidence or resolve conflicting factual claims. Instead, its inquiry is limited to whether the plaintiff has stated a legally sufficient claim and made a prima facie factual showing sufficient to sustain a favorable judgment. Mr. Carter need establish only a minimum level of legal sufficiency and triability. The proffered evidence is probative of the matters for which he bears the limited burden and must be credited. Mr. Carter now has evidence that Ms. Doe did not meet Mr. Buzbee to discuss the case until December 11th, more than 1 month after he sent the demand letter. Because Buzbee sent the demand letter in October. Are y'all listening to this? Buzbee sent Jay-Z the demand letter around October. And so how does this make any sense? Because if he sent the demand letter in October and didn't meet with Jane Doe, Mr. Carter now has evidence that Miss Doe did not even meet with Mr. Buzbee to discuss her case until December the 11th, more than a month after he sent the demand letter. So Buzbee sent out a darn demand letter without having even met this woman. So how could he have done his due diligence and vetted her properly? He had not even laid eyes on this woman. They say they have evidence of this. And remember, the stuff in these filings are under penalty of perjury. Mr. Carter now has evidence from Jane Doe's mouth that he did not assault her. Mr. Carter also now has evidence from Ms. Doe that Buzbee brought Jay-Z into it. She further stated Buzbee was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him. A reasonable fact finder could conclude that Mr. Buzbee orchestrated this entire episode, and when he sent the demand letter, he engaged in extortion as a matter of law. Mr. Carter also now has evidence that Mr. Buzbee's colleague, David Fortney, visited Miss Doe at her home on February the 13th of 2025 to convince her to dismiss her case against Mr. Carter, and did so by telling her that Mr. Carter had threatened her life. Now, this is what Buzbee's colleague did, not Buzbee himself, but they said David Fortney, who is an attorney that works with Buzbee, supposedly. They say he's the one who visited her at her home the day before. The day before, Buzbee dismissed the case with prejudice, which was February the 14th. Well, Mr. Fortney visited her on the 13th and told her Jay-Z was threatening to kill her. Mr. Buzbee dismissed the New York action the next day. Now, y'all know this sounds shady. Y'all know this all sounds shady. Anybody with common sense and critical thinking skills knows that this sounds shady. Okay? Does this sound like Buzbee was acting in an ethical manner? Libby says, Jay-Z messed up sending those people at that woman's house. If you're not involved, should have left it alone. But there's no proof that Jay-Z sent those people to her house. There's no proof, beloved, that Jay-Z sent those people to her house. Now, her and Tony Buzbee say that Jay-Z did, but Jay-Z's not owned up to it. And they likely did come at Jay-Z's behest because they were asking her about Jay-Z. They didn't mention Diddy. And so they probably were sent by him, but it's not what we think, it's what you can prove. And nobody has proven that he even sent them. So that doesn't even matter at this point. Okay, now, goes on to say, Buzbee dismissed the New York action the next day. We also know that 2 weeks earlier, Mr. Buzbee's lawyer had already told Mr. Carter's attorney that Mr. Buzbee would be dismissing the lawsuit. A fact finder could conclude from that chronology that Miss Doe was just a pawn in Mr. Buzbee's plan to extort money from Mr. Carter. These are not minor details. Drawing all reasonable inferences in Mr. Carter's favor, the new evidence supports Mr. Carter's claims. Are y'all hearing this? And just remember you heard it here first. Okay, just remember you heard it here first at the end of the day. Just remember you heard it here first at the end of the day. This is all crazy. Okay, Jay Black said you biased. Okay, beloved, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it, okay? If I'm biased, so are you. Okay, you believe Jane Doe, and I don't believe Jane Doe. You believe she's telling the truth, and I don't believe she's telling the truth, nor do I believe Jay-Z's telling the whole truth. But the bottom line is, if I'm biased, then so are you, sir. Okay, and either way, why do you care? You don't have to be on this channel listening to anything I'm saying. You can go get the lawsuits and read them yourself and draw your own conclusions. That's what we all can do, okay? That's what we all can do, beloved. No need to be sad, mad, or butthurt because somebody doesn't agree with you, but let's continue. So goes on to say, as to the evidence about Jay, and here's the thing, this is how you know, Nicole said, Queen is just reading the documents. Thank you, beloved. And here's the thing, this is how you know that I'm not being biased, because I was all for Jane Doe in the beginning. I was all for Jane Doe from day one, okay? Because her story sounded plausible. And because I've heard rumors about Jay-Z liking underage girls before, okay? That's been rumored for decades. So my first instinct was to look at what was being said and then base my opinion off of that, and that's what I did. And I initially was believing Jane Doe and did videos saying just that. I was all for Tony Buzbee and did videos saying just that, okay? But now, since other evidence has come out, well, it's clear to me that everything isn't what it looked like. Now, that's just my opinion, okay? So I'm entitled to change my mind, and that doesn't make me biased, because if I'm biased now, then that would also mean that I was biased previously, okay? So please make yourself make sense. Now, as to the new evidence about Jane Doe's mental health, including hallucinations, 4 false accusations of sexual assault, and her criminal record. Now, I want you all to pay attention to all of this, because people like Jay Black are being stupid, okay? He wants to say I'm being biased, but he's the one being biased, because listen to this evidence here. And this is all what an attorney or what a doctor already testified to 10 years ago in 2015. This is factual evidence. It's on the record. You can look it up yourself, Okay. As to the new evidence about Jane Doe's mental health, well, actually, you can't because you don't know who Jane Doe is, but Rolling Stone does, and they have the same evidence that's spoken about in these filings. Okay, so as the new evidence about Jane Doe's mental health, including hallucinations, okay, 4 false accusations. 4. She has lied on people before. She has lied on people before. Okay, so if she has lied on people before, how do we know she's not lying again if a person has a history of deception? Libby says Jane Doe has mental issues. They scared that woman. It's sad. Well, she does have mental issues, supposedly. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, she wasn't scared. Let's not say she was scared, beloved, just because she's saying she was scared. She didn't sound scared on that video. When we heard the audio of her talking, she didn't sound scared. And people who are scared don't tend to stand there and talk on their front porch, on their property, to people that are scaring them. They likely would go back in their house and shut and lock their door. They likely would call 911. They likely would do something to imply that they were fearful. Not stand there and talk to them for 30 minutes. If you're scared, that's what you don't do. Okay, that's what you don't do. Okay, Miss Sheila said you're innocent until proven guilty. Absolutely, beloved. Absolutely. Jay Black says, I'm on truth, don't know neither one of them, but I know Daisy lied about being at the party. Well, you know, he may have lied about being at the party, beloved. So you're going to say that Jay-Z's guilty. You're basically acting like Jay-Z's guilty because he may have lied about being at the party. Well, let's talk about what Jane Doe lied about. Was Jane Doe even really at the party? Was she really even at the party? You don't know that. Okay, that's what you don't know. Did you see her there? Do we have proof, 100% proof that she was there? We don't. So you see, this is why it's asinine to be saying that somebody's biased or going back and forth with somebody about facts that none of us really even know. We're all at this point just speaking about what we think or what we believe. That's what we're all doing. Okay? We don't know what the hell really happened. Whether Jane Doe was ever at the party, let alone Jay-Z. That's what we don't know, unfortunately. Okay? That's what we don't know. But what I do know is that you're innocent until proven guilty. All right? In Black American Radio says, Jay Black, you're slow. There was no party. What the investigation did say, let's say it was a party. Did Jay-Z do anything to you? She claimed Benjamin was at the party too. Exactly. And they said they were out of town. They were not even in the same state. So you talking about Jay-Z lied about being at the party. Was there ever even a party that she was at? Let alone Jay-Z. Like, make it all make sense. See, people want to pick and choose. And then when somebody's saying something that's against your narrative that kind of makes sense, you don't want to admit that. So you want to say, oh, they're being biased. Oh, this, that, and the third. Yeah, that's all that is. I'm not going to sit up here and just act like this woman didn't say some things that don't make any darn sense. I'm not going to sit up here and act like Tony Buzbee doesn't seem to have had a whole agenda. How in the hell did Tony Buzbee send Jay-Z a demand letter in October, but didn't meet Little Miss Jane Doe until December the 11th? Make that make sense and then get back to the queen. Now, on to what I was saying. So goes on to say, as the new evidence about Jane Doe's mental health, including hallucinations, 4 false accusations of assault, and her criminal record, defendants label it here as mere mudslinging. It's not mudslinging. This all attests to her credibility. See, Tony Buzbee's team is trying to say that it's mudslinging because they're talking about she has hallucinations, because they're bringing up the fact that she has mental health. Well, Tony Buzbee, here's the question I have for you. Here's the question I have for you, Mr. Tony Buzbee. At the end of the day, if this is mudslinging, wouldn't it also have been mudslinging to have the news talking about Little Miss Jane Doe had autism? They said she has autism, so that's likely a fact. She said she had autism. So if she has autism, why is that nothing bad for people to talk about? But they can't say anything about her mental health, her hallucinations, her making false accusations. If she made false accusations 4 different times, that all attests to her credibility. It is not mudslinging. You see how they're deflecting and gaslighting? Jay Black said Spiro admitted he was at the party. Spiro admitted that Jay-Z was at the party. When did he do that? Show me the receipts. Okay? Show me the receipts. Roxy says, thank you, Queen. How can any unbiased, rational person listen to what's presented so far from both sides? Believe Buzbee, people have screws loose. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, beloved. And thank you for your contribution to the channel and your insight to the topic. Peace, love, and blessings. That's all I'm saying. Libby says both lawyers are shady. Well, I have said that as well. I told you all months ago. Listen, you heard it here first. I told you Alex Spiro has worked with the CIA allegedly. I told you that allegedly he did Bobby Shmurda dirty, Meg the Stallion, Kanye West. Okay? That these people have complained that he did them dirty. I can't recall if it was Megan. He did. He was Megan's attorney at some point. Don't know if he did her dirty. I can't recall. But I do know that he allegedly did Kanye West and Bobby Shmurda dirty. Okay, so yes, I feel like many attorneys are shady. But the bottom line here is not who's the shadiest. The question here is who acted in the most unethical manner? Who's out here doing stuff that they know is illegal or they know is problematic under the eyes of the law? It sounds like Buzbee. Okay, it sounds like Buzbee. If you sent a demand letter to somebody before a month and a half before you ever met the accuser, sir, that definitely reeks of extortion or at the very least unethical practices. Now, it goes on to say, they say defendants label it as mere mudslinging. It is not. It doesn't matter that Mr. Buzbee was not, as he sarcastically stated a few days ago, her psychologist. He was her lawyer. Before extorting Mr. Carter and publicly accusing him of raping a child, he had a legal duty to do more than take at face value an outlandish 25-year-old accusation told by someone with serious and self-evident credibility problems. That's what I'm talking about. Now, that's what I'm talking about right there. Okay? That's what I'm talking about right there. Jay Black says you gaslight and hate to be wrong. Jay Black, I don't have a problem with being wrong, beloved. See, you don't know me. I'm sure this is your first time on this channel. Everyone on this channel who's a regular can tell you that I have admitted to being wrong before. And in fact, when I found out all this stuff about Tony Buzbee, I came back and said I felt like a fool for caping for him in the first place, bragging about what a good attorney he is. Now, he is a good attorney. Okay, I would imagine he's won awards. He's won billions of dollars in cases. But at the end of the day, he also does some shady things, in my opinion. Okay? So I don't have any problem admitting that I'm wrong, honey. I definitely don't have a problem with that. You're the one gaslighting, honey. Okay? I have admitted to being wrong about this case. All right? I believed one thing, and now I believe something else. I'm big enough to admit that. It has nothing to do with being someone who doesn't want to admit they're wrong. Okay, that's what narcissists tend to do. Narcissists can't take accountability and don't want to admit when they're wrong. I have no problem doing that. I do it all the time if I'm wrong, which I'm usually not wrong. But in this case, I feel that I was. I feel that I should not have believed Jane Doe in the first place. Okay, when I first found that there was inconsistencies in her interview, but I still gave her the benefit of the doubt. Now that doubt is gone. Okay, now that benefit of the doubt is gone because there's been even more things coming to the forefront. Okay, so with that all being said, let's continue. So, goes on to say, Mr. Buzbee heard what he wanted. Instead, Mr. Buzbee heard what he wanted and deemed it good enough for his sick plan for Mr. Carter. This new evidence confirms that Mr. Buzbee acted with reckless disregard for the truth. In fact, a simple search of Jane Doe's publicly accessible social media likewise revealed her history of mental health issues, including bipolar disorder, her chronic rug with a D use, using illegal substances, chronic abuse, they say, and hallucinatory episodes. Okay, as a search of Ms. Doe's publicly accessible case file from the custody case filed by the father of one of Ms. Doe's children reveals that she admitted to falsely accusing the father of molesting with an M their child just to obtain a financial and custodial benefits. So not only has she lied before on somebody about assault, she lied on the father of her own child about doing this to the child, and then did so allegedly for financial and custodial benefit so that she could get custody of the child. Isn't that something? But I'm the one being biased. I'm gaslighting. I can't admit I'm wrong. J Black Beloved, that's what you can't do. Because if you had any sense, you would see that she said a whole bunch of things that are not true. You would see that her credibility absolutely is in question because of all of these issues that she's had prior. That's just obvious. Now, with that all being said, a fact finder could infer that Jane Doe was also willing to do that to Mr. Carter. Similarly, a query to Jane Doe's father would have revealed that he never made the 12-hour round trip drive from Rochester to pick up his daughter at a gas station in the pre-dawn hours when she was 13. Speaking with Miss Doe's father would have also informed defendants that she is under the care of a psychiatrist. Sees her monthly. She goes to a psychiatrist monthly. This is apparently what her father said, because they said speaking with Doe's father. Okay, and takes medication, all of which impact her decision-making memory. She's on medication, okay, for psychological issues, mental health issues. What if she's not always taking her medication? What if she's not always taking her medication? Is she credible? Okay, is she credible? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's just my opinion. Okay, so now with that all being said, but hey, the good news is I'm not going to go in on anyone for disagreeing with me, okay? But if you're talking crazy, I'm going to tell you about yourself. Measure Man says, nah, Queen keeps it 100. She is not afraid to say I got it wrong. As more evidence came out, Queen said, okay, something is off. Also nefarious. Thank you, beloved. Perfectly said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for addressing that, the comment, and your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, goes on to say, the father talked about how she takes medication and sees a psychiatrist monthly. Okay, please pay attention. She has a host of issues. Defendants claim that Ms. Doe's statements are inadmissible hearsay. Not so. As explained in the application, California Evidence Code 1230, Statute 1230 allows admission of hearsay statements against interest when they are contrary to the declarant's pecuniary or proprietary interest, or creates a risk of making the declarant an object of hatred, ridicule, or social disgrace in the community, or subjects her to civil liability. Courts consider all surrounding circumstances to determine if a reasonable person, okay, in the declarant's position would not have made the statements unless she believed it to be true. So basically, here's the thing. Little Miss Jane Doe and Buzbee, what they don't want, they don't want, how can I put this? Buzbee and Little Miss Jane Doe, they basically don't want the recordings that the investigators took with her saying that Jay-Z didn't do anything to her, with her admitting that she lied or whatever. They don't want that to be allowed into evidence. Okay, they're fighting to keep that from being allowed into evidence, because they know that just really kills her whole case, her entire argument, right? But now, mind you, her case is dismissed, but the thing is, they're still being sued. Her and Buzbee are being sued. So they do not want this admitted into evidence for the defamation case that Jay-Z has against them, because this just goes to further prove Jay-Z's case. Okay? Because if she just made this stuff up, which is what it's starting to sound like. I mean, she's lied 4 other times on 4 other people in different cases. She's had 3 other attorneys. So it would be safe to assume, notice I said assume, it would be safe to assume that just maybe she's lying. And if that's the case, and Tony Buzbee didn't do his due diligence, which clearly he didn't, and then he sent out that darn demand letter before he even met her, that's all grounds for defamation. That is all grounds for Jay-Z to win his case. So they're trying to stop that information from the investigators from making it to court. That's what this is all about. Now, goes on to say, Mr. Carter's proffer includes evidence that Jane Doe repeatedly said that Mr. Carter did not assault her. Investigators have Miss Doe on a recording confirming Jay-Z had nothing to do with this, correct? Right. He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any sexual acts towards you. Yeah. She repeated this not once but 4 times. She said that Buzbee brought Jay-Z into it and that he was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him. These statements satisfy Statute 1230. They contradict her prior sworn allegations and subject her to pecuniary loss and liability for perjury, defamation. This is making her liable. Please pay attention. See, this is going to be absolutely allowed in. They don't want it because it's going to make her liable, okay, for pecuniary loss and liability for perjury, defamation, and malicious prosecution. She could face all of those. She's already facing that last claim. Now, defendants argue that Miss Doe, Doe's statements implicate Mr. Buzbee and his firm, but not her. A statement is against the speaker's interest. A statement is against the speaker's interest, even if it implicates another party, so long as it undermines the declarant's own interest. Okay, they reference the case People versus Grimes. So they're saying, listen, even if she did implicate Buzbee by saying that he's the one that told her to bring Jay-Z into it, even if she is saying that Buzbee pushed her to tell this story, it's still her fault because she still did it. Ms. Doe's statements implicate her in allowing false allegations to be made in her name. That's because she allowed Buzbee to file the lawsuit. She allowed Buzbee to go forward with the claims. She allowed him to go forward with sending the demand letter. So even if she didn't implicate herself in the audio that we have from the private investigators, and she only implicated Buzbee, still Buzbee was speaking on her behalf when he filed that lawsuit. So she's still held accountable for all of that. That exposes her to liability, civil liability for malicious prosecution, a claim that she is now facing. Please pay attention. Please pay attention. And I want you all to remember that you heard it here first, because trust and believe, everybody does not have all of these documents. Okay, everybody's not getting you all of these documents. You know, people are going and getting the lawsuits and all of that, but everybody's not bringing you all of these filings on a regular basis as they come out. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, and you know, this right here is a prime example, beloveds, of why people should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Because very often we judge people in the court of public opinion, but then when more evidence starts coming out, then we start to see a different story. We start to see the narrative being changed. Okay, there's nothing wrong with changing your mind after you see new evidence. Now, let's continue. So it goes on to say, defendant's citation in reference to Weber does not help. The court rejected admission because the declarant did not believe his words would expose him to harm. That was a fact-specific outcome. Here, however, there is no reason for Ms. Doe to admit that Mr. Carter did not actually assault her or that Buzbee pushed her to claim so unless those admissions were true. Now, what Buzbee's going to argue, because this is what Jay-Z's team is saying, but what Buzbee's going to likely argue, of course, is that she denied the claims because she was being harassed, intimidated, and threatened and feared for her life. That's what they're going to play. That's the card they're going to play. But she didn't sound like she feared for her life, in my opinion, on that audio. She didn't sound like she was afraid. Now, defendants further argue that Ms. Doe's statements are unreliable because she was frightened and intimidated. That's disputed. Courts assess not just the words spoken, but circumstances under which they were uttered, the possible motivation for the declarant and the declarant's relationship to the defendant. When Ms. Doe spoke to the investigator, she spoke freely, at ease, and without coercion. Ms. Doe was not, now listen to this, because this is what I already told you guys before these documents even came out. This is what I absolutely already told you all. Now listen to this. Now they say, when Miss Doe spoke to the investigators, she spoke freely, at ease, and without coercion. Miss Doe was not restrained, detained, or in an unfamiliar setting. She was on the front porch of her home, free to walk inside and end the conversation at any time. Didn't I tell y'all that? If she was so damn scared, she could have taken her behind right in her house, shut the door, and locked and closed the blinds. Okay? She never told the investigators that she did not want to speak to them, nor did she tell them to leave, which the transcript of the recording confirms. When asked if she would be open to signing an affidavit, she did not claim intimidation. She instead asked, but how does that help me? She now denies having said this, but the transcript contradicts her denial. And here's the thing. She likely didn't want to sign anything because that would have been proof that she was saying all of this stuff, but she apparently didn't know that they were recording her, because the reports say that she was secretly recorded. So she didn't know they already had her dead to right anyway with the recordings. But she didn't want to sign anything to let it be known. She didn't want there to be proof that she admitted to these things. That's what that was. And to me, that shows that she's manipulative and that she definitely knows how to lie and be deceptive. Okay, that's my opinion. Now, with that all being said, Miss Doe's father's statements to the investigator, while hearsay, are admissible under Evidence Code Statute 1250's effect on the listener's exception. Her father's statements about how Mr. Buzbee's firm told Miss Doe that there are very, very, very serious threats from Mr. Carter are not offered to prove the threats existed. They did not, but to explain why she went along with the defendant's request that she dismiss her lawsuit. Her father told the investigator that Miss Doe is under psychiatric care, sees her doctor monthly, and takes medication, factors affecting her decision-making and memory. That's right. You can't trust her to make good decisions or to remember things adequately when she has all this host of problems going on. Anyone who does is foolish. These statements are probative of what defendants would have been or notice of, and how carefully they needed to investigate Miss Doe before taking anything she said at face value. Finally, defendants misinterpret Sweetwater, arguing that hearsay must meet trial stage admissibility now. Sweetwater held that evidence is admissible at this stage if it is reasonably possible the evidence set out in supporting declarations will be admissible at trial. Now, I'm going to skip past all this because that's another case. They reference several different cases. Now, with that all being said, because the court does not weigh credibility or compare the weight of the evidence on a special motion to strike, defendants' new declarations and exhibits are relevant to the special motion to strike only if they defeat the evidence submitted by Mr. Carter as a matter of law. They do not. Okay? They do not. So please pay attention. Let me read that again. Because the court does not weigh credibility or compare the weight of the evidence on a special motion to strike, defendants' new declarations and exhibits are relevant to the special motion to strike only if they defeat the evidence submitted by Mr. Carter as a matter of law, and they do not. In considering this evidence, the court should consider not only what it says, but what it does not say. It is a Hornbook law where a party has control of the evidence on an issue and fails to present it. The fact finder is permitted the inference that its tenor is unfavorable to the party's cause. Defendants could have presented, now they say defendants could have presented evidence about what they did to vet Jane Doe's alleged claim, but they have not done so. Now, here's the question. Why would they not have told, or why would they not have shown why or how they vetted her claims, especially when they're being accused of not having done so? Okay? Why? I find it all very interesting. Libby says those investigators waited till her parents left the house. Again, mental issues does play a big part, but it could have had happened. Libby, her parents don't live with her. I don't think her parents even lived with her, because she said that they not only came to visit her, they went to visit her parents. So I don't think her parents would have been there, because I don't think they lived there, beloved. I don't think they lived there. And the bottom line is she's still telling lies regardless. Now, goes on to say Jane Doe declarations. Okay, hold on. I skipped something. Okay, defendants could have presented evidence about what they did to vet Doe's allegations or alleged claim, but have not done so, despite being asked repeatedly about its absence in the prior briefing. Their failure to do so, even in what it amounts to their sir reply, allows the trier of fact to infer that the evidence would be adverse to Mr. Buzbee. Okay? So, defendants submitted 2 declarations on February 27th and March the 6th that they assert were executed by Jane Doe. Defendants cite the former to support their assertion that on November 5th of 2024, the Buzbee party sent Carter a demand letter on behalf of Ms. Doe, which she authorized. Okay, but the February 27th declaration does not say when Ms. Doe supposedly authorized Mr. Buzbee to send the demand letter, or that it was before November the 5th. Okay, nor does it say that at that point Ms. Doe anticipated in good faith the filing of a lawsuit against Mr. Carter. This is all so nefarious. Okay, so let's have a brief word from my sponsor, 12 Tribes, before we continue. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, with that all being said, don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes oil for your hair at Etsy.com, and you can also find it, just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, now let's continue, because as for the March 6th Jane Doe declaration, defendants cite it to argue that, number one, Jane Doe flatly denies the statements set forth in the investigator's declarations. Number two, Jane Doe was and remains frightened of retaliation and harassment from Carter. Both of these claims or points only create factual disputes, given that the transcript of Ms. Doe's conversation with investigators contradicts her denials and affirms what the investigators declared. Are y'all listening? I'm sorry, I just can't with little Miss Jane Doe. Now, March 11th, Buzbee's declaration. Defendants cite this to claims that they conducted diligence on Jane Doe's claims, including her claim against Carter in October of 2024. Mind you, in October of 2024, when she first had those claims to come out, Buzbee had not even met her. Didn't meet her until December 11th, okay? Over a month later, okay? Please keep that in mind. So anyway, goes on to say, but the declaration does not do so. It says nothing about the extent of this purported investigation or when, in relation to filing the lawsuit, sending the demand letter, or publicly claiming that Mr. Carter raped Ms. Doe, it occurred. The absence of that evidence allows the fact finder to infer if it happened, it was not until Mr. Carter filed his Rule 11 motion. Okay, so they're saying Tony Buzbee didn't even say nothing about how they vetted this woman. It was not in the initial filing. And then they didn't even prove how they came to the decision that the story was even credible. Mr. Buzbee's declaration also says that the Jane Doe letter was authorized by Jane Doe and was sent in serious contemplation of litigation against Mr. Carter. But like the Doe declaration, his declaration is silent as to whether he obtained Ms. Doe's approval before he sent the letter. An attorney's self-serving declaration is insufficient to make a prima facie showing of good faith at step one of this statute 425.16 analysis. Now, and it cannot defeat the evidence submitted by Mr. Carter as a matter of law at step 2. Defendants attached to Mr. Buzbee's declaration 2 affidavits from Jane Doe dated November 18th and December the 8th. These declarations are more troubling than probative, okay, or probative. As to the latter, they do not state that Ms. Doe was aware of the November the 5th demand letter or authorized Mr. Buzbee to send it, or that she had authorized him to file the complaint against Mr. Carter. They do not confirm the existence of any interview or other vetting of her claim, nor do they disclaim that Mr. Buzbee incited Ms. Doe to claim that Mr. Carter was involved. Okay, are y'all hearing this? Are y'all hearing this? Janine said, now they're finding Ariel Mitchell kid case is fraudulent. OMG. Well, I told you all that, beloved. I definitely already told you all that Ariel Mitchell kid's story, that case sounds like a bunch of lies and BS. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. Just because I'm pointing out people who are lying doesn't mean that I'm for Diddy or Jay-Z. It just means that I'm looking at the evidence and some of these people are just not telling the truth. And y'all know it too. Some of y'all who've been paying attention, okay? Some of you all who have been paying attention know good and well that there's a whole lot of lying going on, which is awful because this is the main way Diddy can get off. But let's continue. So anyway, they basically said that Buzbee didn't show any proof that he verified her claims. Okay, yet they raised disturbing questions. Why on the very day, November the 18th, that Mr. Carter filed this lawsuit, did Mr. Buzbee think that he needed Jane Doe to sign a declaration about the allegations in the New York action? Likely because Buzbee had not gotten her to file one prior. Now, that's just my opinion. Now, and why did Mr. Buzbee decide that he needed a near identical declaration on the day, December the 8th, that he amended the Jane Doe complaint, okay, to reveal Celebrity A was Mr. Carter? This reeks of a guilty mind. A fact finder could infer that Mr. Buzbee had concerns about the veracity of Jane Doe's allegations and wanted to block her from disavowing them or anything else that he had done. Are y'all hearing this? Are y'all hearing this? Basically, they're saying that Tony Buzbee started putting this whole thing in motion before he not only even met Miss Jane Doe, but before he vetted her claims and before he even got permission from her to even send a demand letter, saying that he did all this stuff on his own. This is what they're alleging. Are y'all listening? Saying that Buzbee went about doing these things on his own without even having any factual evidence or proof, or without even having sat down and held a conversation and talked to this woman whom he didn't even have a meeting with until December the 11th. Okay, this is all very interesting and troubling to say the least. Now let's continue. And said basically that Buzbee had concerns about the veracity of Jane Doe's allegations and wanted to block her from disavowing them or anything else that he had done. This weighs against granting the motion. Equally troubling is that Mr. Buzbee never filed either declaration with the court. Okay, Spiro's declaration. In other words, Mr. Buzbee intended these declarations to serve some other non-litigation purpose. Didn't I tell you all that? You heard it here first. Didn't I tell y'all that? Let me read over that again. In other words, Mr. Buzbee intended these declarations to serve some other non-litigation purpose. Yeah. He wasn't intending to go to court. That's why he didn't file in the Southern District of New York for a prima facie, a pro hoc vici, I mean. That's why he didn't file for a pro hoc vici, because he had no intention of going to court. Okay? That's what he had no intention of doing. It was for a non-litigation purpose. In other words, Buzbee intended these declarations to serve some other non-litigation purpose. That means another purpose besides going to court. If defendants continue to assert a litigation privilege on their special motion, Mr. Buzbee's submission of them here calls out for his and Jane Doe's depositions. Now, this declaration and its attached intake form have too many foundational defects to be considered. He refers to an undated intake form, okay? But neither he nor the form itself specify when it was created, when the name Jay-Z was added to it, and when was the source or who was the source of the supposed information. These attorneys from the Buzbee law firm assert on and around November the 4th of 2024, I spoke with the plaintiff, identified as Jane Doe, who at that time authorized our firm to send a demand letter to Plaintiff Carter's counsel. These assertions have serious foundational problems, given how carefully defendants have crafted their declarations about vetting claims, leaving holes through omission. Okay, then they say the date modifier of on or around November the 4th can just as easily mean November the 5th, 6th, or 7th. That is after Mr. Buzbee sent the demand letter. After he sent the demand letter, that could have been written, is what they're saying. Fortney's and Holler's declarations are more important for what they don't say. Like Buzbee, Fortney and Holler do not say that they met or interviewed Jane Doe about her claim before filing the New York action, or before sending the demand letter to Mr. Carter, or before publicly accusing Mr. Carter of being a rapist. Nor do they say that they vetted or investigated Jane Doe's claims at any point. Who did and when? Defendants leave the court guessing. As with Mr. Buzbee, Fortney and Holler's failure to provide any evidence about their firm's investigation or lack thereof into Jane Doe allows the trier of fact to infer that defendants conducted an inadequate investigation, if any investigation at all. And I don't think they did one at all. I don't think they did one at all. I think they just took it and ran with it. Tony Buzbee, that is, for a quick payday, had no intention of ever seeing it for seeing the light of day in court. Just think he's going to get a quick settlement. Now, finally, defendants rely on a declaration from Mark Kasowitz, Mr. Buzbee's attorney, in connection with the Rule 11 motion in the New York case, citing that defendants claimed that Mr. Carter agreed to drop this case and refrain from having any contact with Ms. Doe if Mr. Buzbee agreed to dismiss Jane Doe's case. That is false. Mr. Carter offered no such quid pro quo. Okay, because now they're trying to say that if they drop the case, against Jay-Z, that there was an agreement that they would refrain from having any sort of contact with Ms. Doe. Okay, if Mr. Buzbee agreed to drop the Doe case. Well, they're saying that's a lie. They never said they wouldn't have contact with her. They said Jay-Z never offered no such quid pro quo. Further, Mr. Kasowitz's declaration does not support defendant's assertion. On February the 4th, he sent an email to Mr. Carter's New York counsel, Alex Spiro, laying out Mr. Buzbee's proposal for Jane Doe to voluntarily dismiss her lawsuit with prejudice. Now, Mr. Kasowitz did not propose in that email or elsewhere that Jane Doe's dismissal would be conditioned on Mr. Carter dropping this lawsuit. Mr. Kasowitz's assertion now of an explicit agreement that no contact be made with Ms. Doe is just not true. He never mentioned that to Mr. Carter's counsel, nor is it in his email. And they do have the email, just so you know. Defendants had 15 pages in their special motion to strike and 10 more in their reply to convince the court to strike the FAC. Okay? And the FAC stands for First Amended Complaint. Defendants' opposition devotes an additional 6 pages to rehashing their arguments or raising new ones that they could have but did not include in their motion or reply. These arguments are improper. The court should disregard them. They are addressed below only briefly to show that they do not move the needle. Defendants have twisted beyond recognition. Okay, they argue that it involved the submission of insurance claims, which are not privileged. Okay, I'm thinking this is another case they're talking about. Okay, so basically they're saying Tony Buzbee went through all the trouble of getting this case dismissed because he did some shady things when he filed the case, and even before he filed it, when he sent the demand letter, and before he ever even talked to the accuser. Now, Mr. Carter's discovery request is procedurally proper. Defendants argue that Mr. Carter needed to have made a notice motion for discovery. At the February 25th hearing, the court allowed Mr. Carter to file a proffer of the proposed evidence and discovery in the form of an ex parte application subject to more than the usual 24 hours notice. The court and the parties had already discussed the motion or the notice motion part and concluded that it would be satisfied if defendants had a reasonable opportunity to file an opposition. The court has the discretion to manage its cases and calendar as it has here. For those reasons, okay, and then they reference these cases, which concerns whether an oral motion for discovery can substitute for a notice motion is off point. After the hearing, the parties met and conferred, but did not agree on a briefing schedule. Mr. Carter filed his application on March the 5th and proposed in an email to the clerk that defendants have until March 11th, 6 days, to respond. Judging by the volume of briefing and evidence that defendants filed, they have been fully and fairly heard. Okay, conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, the court should grant plaintiff's application. Okay, so y'all heard it. This is signed by Robert M. Schwartz. Okay, one of Jay-Z's teams. So at the end of the day, it just sounds like Tony Buzbee didn't do a good job. Neither did the rest of the attorneys that handled her case, little Miss Jane Doe's case. Because the bottom line is, it just sounds like to me that basically, they didn't look into her mental health. They didn't look into her criminal history. They didn't look into what her family had to say. They just didn't look into anything, because at the very least, if Tony Buzbee had really done his due diligence, and here's how you know he didn't. If he actually did his due diligence, well, he would have known that her father had no idea or was not going to corroborate her story, about being out there at this party in 2000 when she was 13. He would have known that. And so I find it interesting. Okay, now hold on, because I'm going back to these new declarations. I'm going to this new declaration by the female investigator. I'm going to share my screen. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. DJ Big Six says you have to vet your clients. Yeah, you absolutely do. You absolutely do. That's one thing that must be done. Now let's get into this. Likes up, everyone, please. Don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, here we go. Now, this is from the female investigator, Charlotte Henderson. Okay, I, Charlotte Henderson, declare as follows. I make this declaration in support of plaintiff's ex parte application in connection with defendant's special motion to strike. Unless otherwise noted, I have personal knowledge of the facts stated herein, and if called upon to testify, I could and would competently testify thereto. I am a licensed and bonded private investigator, licensed through the state of Alabama's Private Investigation Board. My company, CLH Investigations, is licensed through the city of Montgomery, Alabama. I have investigated numerous insurance fraud, workers' compensation, disability, automobile accidents, and the like throughout the state of Alabama. I have worked in the legal profession for 40 years. Okay, I'm going to skip past some of this. And she claims to have also interviewed hundreds of witnesses. Now, let's talk about what she says about Jane Doe. When interviewing Jane Doe on February the 21st of 2025, I conducted the interview consistent with the high standards for which I was trained as a licensed investigator and that I have observed throughout my career. The interview of Miss Jane Doe was lawfully recorded, given that Alabama is a one-party consent state, and transcribed. So that means Alabama's a one-party consent state. So that means that if you're involved in a conversation with somebody, as long as you're a party to the conversation, as long as you're one of the people having the conversation, you can record it without the other person's knowledge. You don't have to inform them. Okay, one-party consent state. So you can just go ahead and record them. Now, a true and correct copy of the transcript of the interview is attached here too as Exhibit A, redacted where Miss Doe's true name, Miss Doe's true name appears. I reviewed the transcript and the recording and confirmed the transcript accurately reflects the recorded interview and that the recording accurately reflects the conversation that I and James Robert Butler, another investigator who was present with me, had with Miss Doe on February the 21st of 2025. I was provided with and reviewed the second declaration of Jane Doe in response to Sean Carter's proffer of new evidence at hearing on defendant's special motion to strike portions of defendant's first amended complaint, signed March the 6th of 2025 and filed March 11th of 2025. I was surprised to read that Miss Doe had characterized my declaration as almost entirely false, especially considering my declaration detailed the exact statements Miss Doe made when I spoke with her, and that her statements are memorialized in the recorded interview and transcript. And in the following paragraphs, I identify her disputes with my declaration and necessarily with what she said during our in-person conversation. I clear the record about what she said to me and Mr. Butler. Now, in paragraph 8 of Miss Doe's declaration, she claims that she told both me and Mr. Butler that we needed to leave as soon as she had figured out who we were. In claiming that she told us to leave, Miss Doe is lying. As the transcript of our conversation confirms, not once in the entire 15-page transcript does she tell us to leave or use any words to that effect. Now, y'all heard that. They say she never told them to leave. Now, here's the question I have. Here's the question I have. At the end of the day, who thinks that we should be believing what Miss Jane Doe says? Who thinks we should be believing her at this point? Libby says AVA Law or AVA Law Group referred her to Buzbee. Both sides didn't do right. Her father was approached by the detectives too. Yeah, I said that, beloved, that her father and mother, she claimed that her father and mother were approached by the detectives. And that's why I said I don't think they live with her, because you said that they weren't at home when the detectives came. I don't think they were supposed to be in her home because I don't think they live with her. I think they live in a whole nother residence. But with that all being said, one's in the chat if you think that we should still be listening to what little Miss Jane Doe says. Anybody still believe in the story? I don't see any ones in the chat. So nobody believes little Miss Jane Doe's story at this point. Jay Black says still only believe one side, lies. Okay, so yeah, it looks like nobody's believing Miss Jane Doe. Okay, Jay Black believes her. Okay, I find that interesting. Mission's Vision says sounds sketchy. It definitely sounds sketchy. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't believe somebody who hears voices and who's made up lies before. If you have a history of making up lies before, I darn sure can't believe you when you make up the 5th lie. If you made up 4 lies and it's on the record, when you tell us another story, I can't just say that I'm going to believe you. You're going to have some serious proof for me to believe you. After you've been known and proven to tell the same sorts of lies on several occasions, yeah, I need more proof. But let's continue. So goes on to say, rather, as the transcript reflects, Miss Doe spoke openly and willingly with us and freely answered our questions. She was free to leave, go back inside her home at any point and end the conversation, and she chose not to. In paragraphs 9C of Miss Doe's declaration, she claims that she never told me anything about the facts in paragraph 9C of my declaration, which states Miss Doe and Mr. Buzbee, for the first time in Houston, Texas, he paid to fly her there. Their meeting to discuss the case took place when Miss Doe flew out for an interview that Mr. Buzbee had arranged for Miss Doe to give to NBC News in Mr. Buzbee's office. In identifying that she said that to me, Miss Doe is lying. As the transcript of our conversation confirms, Miss Doe told me he flew me out to Houston. He paid for it. The first time I met him was in a coffee shop in Houston. We talked about what all was going to go through and what all had happened. Miss Doe further said to me that Tony, which I understood in this context to refer to Anthony Buzbee, set up the interview with NBC, that it took place in Tony Buzbee's office in Houston, and that it was the same time he flew me out as when they met in the coffee shop. Now, in paragraph 9D of Ms. Doe's declaration, she disputes that she told me that Mr. Carter did not assault her. Ms. Doe is lying. She told me that several times. And as the transcript of our conversation confirms, Ms. Doe made the following statements to me about Mr. Carter during our conversation. Okay, she says, but Jay-Z had nothing to do with it, correct? Ms. Doe says, right. Other than he was at the party that you were at. So, I mean, he did not assault you. No. He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any S acts towards you. Yeah. Yeah, and we're not dismissing the fact that something happened to you. That has nothing to do with, but we just want to clarify that Jay-Z did not have anything to do with it and that he didn't assault you. James Butler then says, is that a fair assessment? To which Ms. Doe says, yeah. In paragraph 9C of Ms. Doe's declaration, she claims that she never made any such statements to me about the facts in paragraph 9E of my declaration, which states, Jane Doe stated to me that she originally told Mr. Buzbee that she had been raped by Sean Combs and a well-known female celebrity who was also present for the assault, and that Mr. Buzbee suggested that she claimed that Mr. Carter was another rapist. In denying that she said that to me, Ms. Doe is lying. As the transcript of our conversation confirms, Ms. Doe told me it was more Diddy, but Buzbee brought Jay-Z into it. He asked if Jay-Z was there. I said yes, but it started out, it was just Diddy and the female celebrity. And then Jay-Z came in. Mr. Butler then asked her, but not from your mouth. And Ms. Doe responded, yeah. In paragraph 9F of Ms. Doe's declaration, she claims that she never made any such statements to me about the facts in paragraph 9F of my declaration, which states, Jane Doe stated Buzbee brought Jay-Z into it, and he was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him with Jay-Z. In denying that she said that to me, Ms. Doe is lying. As the transcript of our conversation confirms, Ms. Doe told me it was more Diddy, but Buzbee brought Jay-Z into it. Ms. Doe then made the following statement to me about Mr. Buzbee during our conversation. Ms. Doe says he was the one that kind of pushed me toward going forward with him, with Jay-Z. Charlotte Henderson says, with Jay-Z, Buzbee did? Ms. Doe says, yeah. In paragraph 9G of Ms. Doe's declaration, she claims that she never made any such statements to me about the facts in paragraph 9G of my declaration, which states, Jane Doe said Mr. Buzbee asked her if Mr. Carter had been at the party. Ms. Doe told Mr. Buzbee that Mr. Carter was at the party, but she told me that Mr. Carter did not take part in any assault of Ms. Doe. In denying that she said this to me, Ms. Doe is lying. Now, B, as the transcript of our conversation confirms, Ms. Doe made the following statements during our conversation. Ms. Doe, it was more Diddy, but Buzbee brought Jay-Z into it. James Robert Butler said, see now, if you don't mind, can you explain that? Because that's kind of Ms. Doe says, he asked if Jay-Z was there. I said yes. James Robert Butler then says, so when you originally sat down at the coffee shop, you told him that Diddy did something to you? Ms. Doe says, yes, because it started out, it was just Diddy and the female celebrity, and then Jay-Z came in. James Robert Butler then says, but not from your mouth? Ms. Doe says, yeah. James Robert Butler then asks, he asked you about Jay-Z? She says, yeah. He then says, but Jay-Z was you're saying he was definitely there, but he had no part in it, or he was there, she says. Now, Charlotte Henderson then asked, he was just there, but he didn't do anything. Didn't do anything to you do any sexual acts towards you. It was strictly, Ms. Doe says, yeah. In paragraph 9H of Ms. Doe's declaration, she claims that she never made any such statements to me about the facts in my declaration, paragraph 9H, which states Jane Doe confirmed the following regarding Mr. Carter during the interview. Jay-Z had nothing to do with this, correct? Right. Other than he was at the party that you were at. So, I mean, he did not assault you. No. He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any assault acts towards you. Yeah. In denying that, she said these statements to me. Jane Doe is lying. Now, as the transcript of our conversation confirms, Ms. Doe made each of these three statements verbatim. She reiterated that Mr. Carter did not assault her. Again, at the end of our conversation, at the end of our conversation, as follows. Charlotte Henderson asked, yeah, and we're not dismissing the fact that something happened to you. That has nothing to do with, but we just want to clarify that Jay-Z did not have anything to do with it and that he didn't assault you. James Robert Butler then says, is that a fair assessment? And she says, yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this whole thing. Now, in paragraph 9J of Ms. Doe's declaration, she claims that she never made any such statements to me about the facts in paragraph 9J of my declaration, which states, Ms. Doe said to me that shortly before Mr. Buzbee dismissed the lawsuit against Mr. Carter, Mr. Buzbee told Ms. Doe that Mr. Carter was threatening to kill her in response to her lawsuit and could come after her. Upon hearing that, Ms. Doe agreed to drop her case. In denying that she said that to me, Ms. Doe is lying. As the transcript of our conversation confirms, Ms. Doe made the following statements during our conversation. James Butler asked, okay, why did it now get dropped? Doe says, because I was too scared to go forward with it. They told me he was threatening to kill me. Jay-Z was threatening. Charlotte Henderson then says, who told you that? Ms. Doe then says, he told me Jay-Z was threatening to kill me. James Butler says, who? Charlotte Henderson says, who told you that? Ms. Doe says, the lawyers. James Butler then asks, the lawyers did? Ms. Henderson says, Buzbee. Ms. Doe says, yeah, he said that there were threats against my life and that saying anything else could get me in a lot of trouble, that he could come after me. Now, I want you all to pay attention because you already know this is shady, because why is Buzbee, who filed the lawsuit, now trying to get the young lady that he filed it for to drop it by telling her that someone is out to kill her? Okay, are y'all hearing this? Are y'all hearing this? Janine said, exactly, Queen. She doesn't seem scared at all. Exactly. Just lying is all she was doing, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, goes on to say, hold on, where was I? Okay, other than he was at the party. Okay, she goes on to ask about Jay-Z or whatever. I'm going to skip past all this. So the bottom line is Charlotte Henderson is sticking to her guns, and she's also declared under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct. And this was March the 14th of 2025. And I want you all to pay attention because all of these people filed these new declarations on March the 14th. They all filed these the same day. Now we're going to go to the last one. Then I'm out of here. We're going to go to the one with a male investigator. We're going to go to his new declaration. And I'm going to share my screen. And I forgot to show you all the evidence that Alex Spiro had attached, the exhibits that he had attached to his. I'll have to remember to go back to that after I finish this because he had some evidence and receipts. All right, so now let's get into what Mr. Pillinger had to say. Supplemental declaration of Ian Pillinger. I, Ian Pillinger, declare as follows. I make this declaration in support of plaintiff's ex parte application. Unless otherwise noted, I have personal knowledge of the facts stated herein and if called upon to testify, I could and would competently testify here too. I am an employee of Gold Post Solutions, LLC, which is licensed to conduct investigations in the state of New York. Now, I was provided with the real name of plaintiff Jane Doe, the person on whose behalf defendants filed the lawsuit, captioned as Jane Doe versus Sean Combs et al. Within a matter of minutes, a simple Google search showed her criminal history, with one of the top results being her arrest for assault. A simple search of her publicly accessible social media likewise revealed her history of mental health issues, including bipolar disorder, her chronic drug use, and hallucinatory episodes. As detailed in my last declaration, based on a review of publicly accessible online and court records, Ms. Doe had previously made 4 allegations of sexual assault prior to accusing Mr. Carter. Okay? 4 other allegations. Now, that's a lot. That's a pattern, people. This is not 1 or 2. When they're saying that she made previous allegations, 4 is a whole lot. Okay, that is a whole lot of accusations against somebody. Now, I want y'all to pay attention. With that all being said. And so, the publicly accessible case file from the custody case filed by the father of one of Ms. Doe's children includes text message exhibits of conversations between Ms. Doe and the father of her child regarding one of the 4 allegations, in which she admitted to falsely accusing the father of molesting their child to obtain a financial and custodial benefit. So this is what she already admitted to, apparently. I want you all to pay attention. She already admitted to this, and they have proof of it. They have the text message exchange. They have the testimony of her previous attorney. Okay? I'm sorry, not her previous attorney, of her doctor. All right? In 2015. They have receipts. Now, with that all being said, goes on to say, in the text thread, Ms. Doe stated, now I want y'all to listen to this. Okay, for the court's, hold on, let me go back a little bit. For the court's convenience, I have attached a true, correct copy of the text exhibit from the custody case file as Exhibit A. It has been redacted so as not to reveal Ms. Doe's real name or other personally identifying information. In the text thread, Ms. Doe stated that a famous Canadian rap star, now y'all listen to this story that she tells. In the text thread, Ms. Doe stated that a famous Canadian rap star, to whom she claims to have been married at the time, put her up to making the false accusation of child molestation. In this text message exchange, the father of one of Ms. Doe's children writes, then why did you ever accuse me of molesting him over text? To which Ms. Doe responds saying, he had me do it, and I was stupid enough to follow along with it. It was a mistake and a bad idea. This is what she supposedly said. This is in the text messages. Ms. Doe then apologizes for making the false accusation of sexual molestation and explains that the famous Canadian rapper she was purportedly married to was the one who texted the father of her child accusing him of the molestation. There is no evidence that Ms. Doe was ever married to this Canadian rap star. This woman is living in a fanciful la la land. Please pay attention. Now she's talking about she was married. Now she's talking about she was married. Okay, Jay Black says them private investigators lying. Well, you know, they could be, beloved, but the reason you believe they're lying is because you're being biased. Just like you accuse me of being. You're being biased, okay? You're just being biased, okay? There's no proof. There's no evidence to say that they're lying. They have transcripts. They have recordings. I played part of one of the recordings, or part of 2 of them. We heard little Miss Jane Doe telling lies, honey. And at this point, if you're still thinking she's telling the truth and the investigators are the problem, then you're being biased. Okay, and so with that all being said, Tikoa Israel says, I'm sorry, but not sorry. These women be lying, trying to get a check. Yeah, some of them absolutely do, beloved. Some of them absolutely do. I have to agree. Now, with that all being said, because it's already been proven, okay, that little Miss Jane Doe lied before to get financial gain and also to get custody of her child. She was willing to lie for that, allegedly. So who knows what else she's willing to lie for? Okay. Jay Black says, and if she's lying, why didn't she sign a statement? I have questions, your words. Well, beloved, I already told you why I think she didn't sign it. If you were listening, I said that I think that she didn't sign the statement because she did not want there to be any evidence that she said what she said to the private investigators. She literally told the private investigators Jay-Z didn't do anything. She said it 4 times. Do you think she wanted Tony Buzbee to know that? Do you think she wanted that evidence to come out? Do you think that she wanted Tony Buzbee to find out that she ever told these investigators that he allegedly pushed her up or got her to say that Jay-Z was the one who did it, to implicate Jay-Z in this? Do you think she wanted Tony Buzbee to know that? Well, we know she don't want him to know that because we also listened, because I played it for you, the audio of Tony Buzbee questioning her about it. And she denied it. She was lying. We heard her tell the investigators Tony Buzbee put her up to it. We then heard her tell Tony Buzbee that she never said that. It has been proven that she has lied, Jay Black. It has been proven that she has lied, beloved. Now, she didn't sign the statements, but she already said it out of her mouth. Who cares if she signed the statement or not? She literally said it out of her mouth 4 different times. They have the transcripts and recordings to verify that. What does she have besides nothing but stuff that she's just saying out of her mouth? Okay, and she's lied 4 other times on people, but you still think that she's not lying? Okay, I'm done talking to you, beloved. Now, anyway, with that all being said, goes on to say that he asked her, why did she accuse him of this over a text? She went on to say that she didn't do it, that a famous Canadian rapper that she was married to. This woman now says she was married to a famous Canadian rapper, but there's no proof to substantiate that. This woman is making up lies. She is making up lies. Okay, now Jay Black says an edited version. Beloved, here's the thing. If they edited the audio, how can you prove that? Now you're just saying stuff to fit your narrative. Okay, are you related to Tisa Tales? Because that's who you sound like. You sound like Tisa Tales. Because Tisa Tales did a video yesterday lying, saying that Jay-Z is on audio admitting that he tricked Jane Doe into dismissing the lawsuit and said he was bragging about it. Okay? So I'm sorry, beloved. That's who you sound like to me. Somebody who's just making up stuff and trying to paint their own narrative. But let's go by the facts as they come out. Okay? Chosen One says the facts are facts and her credibility means nothing. Exactly. Exactly. Okay? Her credibility has been shot to hell. All right, and then the second private investigator, or shall I say the third, who came by himself, Ian Pillinger, he says, I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct. Okay, execute on this the 14th day. They all filed these motions, these declarations on the 14th day. And let me say this. Let me say this. Here's the bottom line. At the end of the day, we could sit here and make excuses for this woman. We could sit here and we could just take guesses of what really happened. We could talk all day long for hours on end about what each of us thinks, how we have our opinions and all of that. But the bottom line is what we do know for facts is that she's been proven to have lied. We've literally heard her telling the lies. Now, the only thing that people who've heard her lying can do now is just make excuses for why she lied. They can say, oh, she lied because she was afraid when they came to her house, they intimidated and harassed her. So she told them what they wanted to hear. We could say that, but we don't know that. Jay Black says, you're talking like you were there with the private investigators. No, I'm not. How the hell am I talking like I was there with them, beloved? How am I talking like I was there with them? I literally said what they wrote in their declarations. I just said what they wrote in the declarations. I didn't say anything that would make one foolishly think that I was there with them. Okay, this is a case of he said, she said. This is their words against hers. Unfortunately for little Miss Jane Doe, they have receipts. That's what they do have. They have receipts, you see. They have audio recording And also, there's 3 different people saying this stuff. 3 different investigators. You have Charlotte Henderson, you have James Butler, and then you have Ian Pillinger. Ian Pillinger came by himself. Charlotte came with Mr. James Butler. They're all saying the same thing. So are all of them lying and she's telling the truth? Well, you know, they could be, but we don't know that. Right now, all we know is what's in these documents and what's already been proven and what's already been verified from her previous cases in court, from her previous lies that she's made up. Okay, so that all being said, I'm done talking to Jay Black because, you know, sadly, you just don't seem to get it. Okay, that's what you don't seem to get, beloved. You just don't seem to get it. All right, now let me pull up. I think this is the one from Alex Spiro. Yeah, this is the one from Alex Spiro where he had the receipts. And I didn't go to his information. Hold on, let me just go to it really quick. Likes up, everyone, please. And here's the thing. Here's the thing, beloveds. If the audio that the detectives have, if it was in fact edited, you don't think they can find out? You don't think they can find out? Of course they can. Of course they can find out if it was edited. All they have to do is get forensic people, experts, to see if the audio has been edited. They could easily find that out. Okay? That's what they could do. So anyway, Lindell says, original queen, people don't like to hear the truth. You are amongst some of the few that are spreading the truth. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Listen, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you what happens with some of these content creators. Some of these content creators know that people want Jay-Z and Diddy to be guilty. Hey, I agree. I want Diddy to be guilty. I think that Diddy has something to do with the death of Tupac. At the end of the day, I think that Diddy did a whole lot of nefarious things and is absolutely guilty of a myriad of crimes. That's what I think. And I think that he should be found guilty of the crimes that he actually committed. But at the same time, there are some people who are making up lies on Diddy, and he should not be convicted for lies. Only for things that actually happen from real victims. That's how you get justice, not from people just making up lies. Okay? With that all being said, Jay-Z is not even facing criminal charges. This is a civil case that was against Jay-Z, and it's already been dismissed. Okay, it's already been dismissed. Now we're just looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with Jay-Z's defamation suit against Little Miss Jane Doe and Tony Buzbee. I think that Jay-Z's going to be victorious. I think that he's going to win, because if all of these things that are in these filings are true, and I believe they are, well, Jay-Z's got a good case and Buzbee doesn't. Okay, Buzbee does not have a good case, especially now that Alex Spiro has exposed the real reason for why he wanted that case dismissed so desperately that he was willing to have his own attorney, or one of his colleagues, shall I say, Mr. Mark Fortney, go to Jane Doe and allegedly tell her to drop it because Jay-Z's threatening her life, to put the fear inside of her so that she would drop it. That looks even more sketchy. That looks even more sketchy as far as I'm concerned. And here's the thing, what I was going to say before I got distracted. Libby said the dog barking sounds. Well, the dog barking sounds don't mean anything. What's that trying to say? Are you trying to imply that because the dog was barking in the audio, that means that she was scared? Because that's what Tisa Tale said. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. The dog could have been barking for a myriad of reasons. Dogs bark when there's strangers around that they don't know, people that they're unfamiliar with. The dogs could have literally been barking because they didn't recognize these two people. Again, if Miss Jane Doe was so afraid, she could have gone back into the house. She could have not even gone outside. When she looked out there and saw two people she didn't recognize, she could have said, "Who are you and why are you here?" They could have told her without her having opened her door. So nobody's going to make me think that she was actually scared and that the dog barking had any damn thing to do with it, because the dog barking could have been for a myriad of reasons. specifically two strangers on the porch, people that the dog doesn't know. Okay, I'm sorry. Anybody here with a dog? Anybody here with a dog? And you're going to tell me your dog doesn't bark when it sees strangers? When somebody walks past your yard, when your dog's on the porch and somebody walks past? When somebody comes into the house that the dog's never seen, the dog may not bark? Are you serious? Are you serious? Because people who say that, D Major says dogs bark just to bark sometimes. Exactly. There's a myriad of reasons why dogs bark. And anyone saying that, oh, the dog was barking because she was scared, that proves that she was scared. That's just foolish. That's someone trying to paint a narrative, because there's plenty of reasons a dog could bark. Okay? Plenty of reasons why a dog could bark. But anyway, let's continue, because here's some of the stuff that Alex Spiro had. Okay, Exhibit A. Now, this is what was on the docket. Remember, he said he checked the docket and he saw that Tony Buzbee had not filed to have the pro hoc vici in the Southern District of New York. And then right here it says, attorney to be noticed. Attorney to be noticed. Okay, this is one for Diddy with Diddy's name on here. These are all his receipts. Okay, these are all Mr. Spiro's receipts. He has a myriad of things on here. Where's Tony Buzbee's receipts with his declaration? I have several questions. Okay, I have several questions. Roddy says dogs bark even when no one is there but a damn ghost. Roxy said if she was so afraid, why did she contact law enforcement or at the very least her own attorney, Buzbee? Thank you. And that's what I said days ago, beloved. That's what I said days ago when the audio was revealed. Okay, you heard it here first when I played the audio, because I'm sure most of y'all heard it here first. Now, I said that. I said if she was so damn scared, why did she call 911? I know she had a cell phone, right? If she was so scared, why did she immediately call Tony Buzbee? And then here's another thing. When she told them, according to the audio, because, okay, Jay Black says that the audio was edited. Even if it was edited, we still heard her say that Jay-Z didn't do those things to her. So if she was so afraid and she just said that because she was scared, why didn't she tell Tony Buzbee? Why didn't she call him and say, listen, these investigators just came to my house. They were harassing and bullying me and threatening me. And they were asking me questions about Mr. Sean Carter, Jay-Z. And I told him he didn't do anything to me. I told him that because I was afraid to say that he did. I was afraid to tell them the truth. So I just told them what they wanted to hear. But they were intimidating and threatening me. I was on my front porch. Why didn't she say that? Why didn't she have that discussion with her own attorney? She didn't. She didn't say anything about it until Tony Buzbee got wind of it and then came and asked her about it. And he recorded her as well, denying the whole thing. As far as I'm concerned, Tony Buzbee could have prepped her of what to say before he started recording. That's just my opinion. Because he's clearly desperate. I really believe he is absolutely desperate. You didn't file for the pro hoc vici in Southern District of New York because you didn't plan on going to court. You sent the demand letter before you even sat down and talked to little Miss Jane Doe, before you even met her. And then you set up an interview? Where's the vetting? Where's the proof of her being vetted? And then the first thing he said after she had those inconsistencies, first thing he did was blame another law firm, the ABA law firm. Oh, another law firm vetted her and then sent her to us, but you didn't vet her yourself afterwards? That's what I thought he did. That's what I thought he did. Vince I Am says wigs can learn from the queen, as what matters is the truth, and even better to have receipts. Pay attention. Thank you, Vince. You are something else. Okay, and let me say something, and this is the thing too. Like I said, some of these people, some of these content creators, they're not going to tell you what they really think. They're just going to go along with what the majority of people want them to say. Because sometimes when we start telling y'all the truth or telling y'all what y'all don't want to hear, sometimes y'all want to go in on us. I don't care if you want to go in on me or not. I don't care if you agree or disagree. At the end of the day, I'm going to tell you what I think. Okay, and I'm going to bring you the facts as they come out. And so you can agree or disagree, but you can go in on me if you want to. I don't care. But see, some people, they don't want people going in on them, so they just cater their commentary to suit their subscribers. And they say what they think they want to hear. That's why they flip-flop back and forth. Okay? But I don't have to flip-flop back and forth. I'm going to tell you what I think at all times, all relevant times. That's what I'm going to do. Because it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. Now, Lindell says, Original Queen, I must say that in the beginning, I thought Diddy may have been guilty, according to media outlets. I think what he may have been doing weird things. I think that he may have been doing weird things, but not necessarily illegal things. Listen, I'm going to tell you like this, beloved. I think that Diddy was doing some illegal things. I really think he was, but we don't know it. For certain things, we know he got in trouble. You know, he was arrested and things like that. But I think that Diddy did do some nefarious things. But I also think that some people are lying on him. That's what I also think. As I said a myriad of times. Aubrey said, Queen, you are absolutely correct. You couldn't have said it better. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Okay. Miss Sheila says, yes, they don't care about us being truthfully informed. They care about clicks and views. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So Miss Sheila says, stop sending them super chats and likes and see what happens. Right, exactly. Okay, because some people will sit here and lie and tell you what you want to hear for super chats. Okay, they will. They don't want you to be mad at them. Listen, I don't care if y'all get mad at me, honey, because I'm going to tell you the truth and I'm going to tell you what I think as far as I'm concerned. Okay, like I said, honey, you can want to hear it or you could not. Y'all already know people have tried to go in on me before when I've been exposing things. And what do? Drop the link. Okay, because we can talk about it. Roddy said their ears hurt, Queen. Okay. This I am says the truth really does set anyone that embraces it free. I prefer the bitter, ugly truth than the bitter, artificially shiny lie. Exactly. Okay, exactly. Janine says more than half the cases are probably fraudulent or even more. I absolutely believe it. And here's the thing. Let's not forget that someone is being sued for a documentary, NBC being sued for that documentary that they did about Diddy. Wasn't it NBC or ABC? I think it was NBC, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But also, Ariel Mitchell Kidd, a lawyer being sued for defaming Diddy. Do you all see how much of a clout chase this is for some people? How so many people have tried to attach themselves to the Diddy case. Just think about it. Just think about it. I mean, if I was that type of person, I've already told you all, I was at a Diddy party years ago. I told you all, I was at a Diddy all-white party in Cancun, Mexico. Okay? I could have told lies too. At the end of the day, people are out here clout chasing, making up lies. Like I told you all weeks ago, there's people who probably only met Diddy in passing. There's people who were probably at a party with the Diddy that didn't even get close to him, but just were at a party. There's people who probably took a picture with the Diddy. And those people are now coming out saying that Diddy raped them because they feel like there's no way to prove it. It's my word against his. Who's going to have receipts from 20 plus years ago? So a lot of people are just saying things. Okay? A lot of people are just saying things. DJ Major Scaling Up said, you were? Yes, I've told that story before, beloved. I absolutely was at a Diddy party years ago. It was in Cancun, Mexico, like I said. It was spring break or whatever, and I was nowhere near Diddy. Okay, but I was at the party. What I'm saying is anybody that was at a party that Diddy was ever at, that he ever threw, they could just come out and say whatever. And that's what some of these people are doing. That's what some of these people are absolutely doing. They're making it bad for the real victims who really were assaulted or had negative things or illegal things or harmful things happen to them. They're making it bad because the jury pool is so tainted at this point. Who's to know what's real and what's not? Even when you have attorneys out here lying, Ariel Mitchell Kidd, then you have Tony Buzbee, another attorney, being sued for defamation. Jay-Z suing him, Diddy suing Ariel Mitchell. So I'm just saying this is all looking real bad, okay? That's right. DJ Big Six said muddy in the waters. Exactly. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I'm about to be out of here. Everyone, please like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that, click the notification bell and click the word all so you're notified. Hold on. Maui police chief categorically denies involvement in alleged case against Diddy. Now, this is the other case that we talked about that I told you all sounds like a whole load of BS too, with Ariel Mitchell Kidd and the person who claims that they were assaulted at a guy named Shane's house when they were lured there by Diddy. And they said that, you know, Odell Beckham Jr. was there, Drewski. And they said all these things in the previous filing. They didn't say anything about that. But when they came back with the amended complaint, they had all this extra information in there. And they even accused this police chief, Maui Police Chief John Pelletier, who says that he has no involvement in the case, and he presented debit cards. And listen to this. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier strongly denies any involvement in case alleging Sean Diddy Combs and others raped Ashley Parham in 2018 in Orinda, California, after he was named in a civil lawsuit against the rapper. Now, as he presented debit card records showing transactions as proof that he was not present during the alleged rape, and shared a statement with Big Island Now's sister publication, Maui Now, categorically denying his presence during the alleged incident. He says, I have never visited the city of Orinda or Costa County, California, where the alleged first incident is claimed to have occurred on March the 23rd of 2018. I can unequivocally account for my whereabouts on that date with documented proof claiming I was in Las Vegas. I'm sorry, say what now? Another story falling apart from the sounds of it. Pelletier is named as a co-defendant in the lawsuit. This is also the lawsuit where they said Jag and somebody named Helena was, you know, involved in and all this crazy stuff. And anyway, Pelletier is named as a co-defendant in the lawsuit filed in October of 2024 and U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. The lawsuit alleges Pelletier posed as a Contra Costa California sheriff and failed to call for emergency services when Parham reported the violent incident. A list provided by Pelletier shows multiple debit card transactions occurring in Las Vegas on March the 23rd of 2018. The man has proof that he was in Vegas, allegedly. They said he has debit card transactions and produced multiple ones. And the following day, okay, not just March 23rd of 2018, and the following day as well, including charges for food, grocery, restaurant, fitness, and insurance charges. An amended complaint, which was filed March 7th of this year, naming multiple co-defendants of their various reported roles in the alleged incident. Two other plaintiffs, a mother and son named as Jane and John Doe, said they witnessed the rape and alleged Pelletier, and others forcibly took them from Las Vegas to California, where they witnessed the assault, according to early reports detailed by the Hawaii Journalism Initiative. Okay, and then they go on to talk about all the other stuff that was said. All right. So anyway, with that all being said, Adrian says, Queen, according to mob psychology, because you were at the party, you were involved in the freak off. Adrian, please sit down somewhere. The Queen was not involved in a freak off, beloved. There was no freak off in Cancun, at least not while I was there. Okay, I don't know what happened after. Okay. Okay, so that all being said, Ms. Sheila says it's going to be interesting on how this lawsuit with Ariel Mitchell is going to go. Yes, it is. It really is, beloved, okay? And I'm going to keep you all updated, okay? So make sure you tune in, keep your notifications on. At the end of the day, Libby says Diddy will turn against Jay-Z. Oh, yes, absolutely, and rightfully so, beloved, because Jay-Z already turned on him the moment his attorney, Alex Spiro, came out and said that him and Diddy were not friends, that they were just business associates and colleagues, that they were never friends. Yeah, Diddy's absolutely, I'm sure Diddy's absolutely done with him, okay? I am sure. Lindell says, Queen, these people are nuts. Okay, some of them absolutely are. All right, so with that all been said, listen, you all stay tuned because I'm going to be posting a couple of uploads. We got to talk about Kanye West going in on Kim about Diddy. We're going to talk about all of that. I'm going to post some uploads, so you all stay tuned. All right, with that all been said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Also, don't forget to double check and make sure you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving those notifications. All right. So Each one teach one is how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now.
That's
See
right.
a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy.
Real slick.
I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got